I took this book off my shelf recently. It is Maggie Malone's 5,500 Quilt Block Designs, and a lot of people have this book, and looking at it, it's nice for inspiration, but you wonder how actually you can use it to make quilts from. So inside the book you have loads of like drawings of historical designs from magazines and publications over the years, and so it's kind of split into 4-patch, 9-patch, etc. And there are blocks that you can make from half square triangles and flying geese and squares and that kind of thing that you could easily kind of rotary cut and cut out, but there's also a lot of patterns in here that would make more sense to make templates and piece them in like the more old-fashioned way of piecing things together. And I don't think many people nowadays make quilts like that so much, so I decided that I would maybe try a few blocks in here, see if there is any interest and other people maybe want to sew along with me and make some of these as well. So I thought I'd better find one that's kind of reasonably interesting to look at, but not too difficult to start with. So I've gone with this one, which is 2486. It's called Windmill Block. And the code on here says it's by AMS, which is Aunt Martha Studios. I had a look online before I filmed this to see if I could find any information about Aunt Martha Studios or this block in particular. I couldn't really find anything, so I think it's quite old. Looking at it, it requires partial seams, and it's a 4-patch, so it's separated as a 2x2 grid. So the templates I have provided in the description below are for a finished block measuring 8 inches, but if you want to make your own templates, I'm going to show you how I made mine shortly. If you wanted to make your own templates, you could make it either a 6-inch block, so 3 inches by 3-inch square quarters. You could make a 12-inch block as well, so you could make them 6-inch square quarters as well. I just went for 8, so each little quarter section is 4 inches. And so I'm just going to show you how I made my templates, and then after that I will show you how I went about sewing it together. And so this is how it looks, and there's no Y seams, it's all partial seams, which are actually quite easy to do as a beginner as well, so it kind of looks more complicated than it is. So next we're just going to have a look to see how I put the templates together on EQ8. So it's a 4-patch, and I'm just kind of referring to it, it's kind of like split into 4 pieces, and that's what makes it a 4-patch. So we know that as long as it can be divided this way, the block height is good. So I've got 8 inches for now, so that would be like 4 inches square. But obviously if you make it 12, it'd be 6 inches square for each one of these quadrants. And then I've just increased the snaps so that it's more than 1 inch right now. I'm not sure how many of those I'll need. I'll just kind of play around with it until it works. So this is kind of where I've got to. I'm going to have to erase some lines, but it's giving me those squares in the middle. They're actually a bit bigger than the ones in the book, so I think I'm probably going to draw it again. But essentially what I did was I had my cross in the middle, and then I counted with 2 dots either side. I don't know why I keep losing focus here. I counted 2 dots from the center and drew a line, and then again it's 2 dots from the center that way to do this kind of cross. And then I had a look in the book and kind of compared what's going on with these shapes. So I kind of did a like a V shape and then mirrored V at the top like this, and then I did the same with the sides as well, because the sides kind of do the same thing. And then my plan is to just kind of erase these corner bits. But yeah, I'm going to just go back and draw that again just to make those squares a little bit smaller and those triangles a bit bigger. So I'll probably drag out the points to another dot and kind of go from there. So it turns out the formula was even more easy than I expected. I actually found that if I drag from halfway across the block down to halfway, that this makes the square smaller and it's all nice and regular. If I switch over to the color screen, you can see how this does not look the same as this right now, but it will make sense, I promise. So if we go back to draw, I know that I need to get rid of this line here, for example, and then the same with this line, like these little lines in these triangles. So I have it so that it snaps to not only the grid points but to the nodes of the drawing. So it should let me just delete the odd little bit, so I should be able to just delete that, and these lines will continue to meet there, even though that's like not an official like 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch mark. So I just need to go and do this, and obviously I'll need to do this for all 4 quarters. But if we do that and we delete this one, you can kind of see how this, especially if I go over to the color screen, and let's just grab, I don't know, let's grab a blue so that it matches the book just for right now. If I can find one. These are blue, that'll do. Okay, so if I paint it to match the book, it kind of looks like this, and these ones are white. It's the same as that. So I was making the drawing a lot more complicated than I needed to. I'm just going to do the same for these quarters, and then we'll export some templates. Here's an idea of what you could do with these blocks. So this is an 8 by 8 grid, so 64 blocks total. And this would be kind of cool to do it scrappy. You could either have, this is one block here, a collection of 4. So you could either have all 4 matching, or you could go scrappy in every corner of each block, and you could just use a whole bunch of scraps this way. And this ends up 64 inches square if you make 64 blocks, because it's an 8-inch block. Okay, so with the printed templates, I have got out some template plastic, and I've traced the shapes using a Sharpie, and you can tell I kind of freehanded it, but that's okay, because when I cut them with scissors it's going to be pretty straight. Use a ruler if you like. I've also made sure I include the C, which is just a square, but it's kind of a slightly unusual square. It's like it's got like a 1/16 of an inch built into it, so it's not like a straight cut, otherwise I'd just rotary cut that. And all of these shapes are including the seam allowance. And so this is kind of how it will play out when we actually sew the block together. And this is going to be partial seams because of the way that they all come together, like kind of like an iris, which is kind of cool. So we've got like 2/4 of them are going to be with the A triangle and 2 with the B, because they go in the opposite direction. So yeah, that's going to be the next step once I've cut out these shapes, and then I'm going to cut out some fabric as well. So these are my templates, and what I'm going to do is just use scraps. So I've just picked 2 large scraps out of my drawer. I need to cut for each quarter. I will need one of these in what's going to be the darker fabric, because that's going to be like the feature fabric that was blue in the diagram. So 4 of those. So going by the diagram, I need 4 triangle A's and 4 triangle B's from the darker colour, as well as the 4 squares. So that's 4, 4, 4, easy to remember, 12 pieces. And then I need, from the lighter colour, I need, for each quarter, I need 2 matching triangles. So that's 4 triangle A's and 4 triangle B's out of this. So 8 pieces I'm cutting out of here, 12 out of here. I am going to trace them onto the fabric, and really, because I don't want it to be mirrored, I would trace onto the front and cut out. Depending on what your fabric looks like, if you've got a light coloured pen or it's not showing up, you can always flip the templates over and trace them onto the back if you prefer. So that's my next job. I'm going to get a white marker, I think, and a pink chalk or something for this one, and just literally trace around all of these templates and then cut them out with scissors. Here's all the pieces cut out, and I've kind of laid them out how they're going to go. I'm going to sew up one of these quarters and then show you how I did it. So I've done 2 of these, and you don't need to do any Y seams at all here. We're going to do partial seams on the sewing machine. And so I'm going to show you just how to do one of them, and then what we're going to do is sew 4 as quadrants, and then you'll sew the 4 together to finish the block. So let's take this one over to the sewing machine. Okay, so the important thing is to work from the square, and depending on which quadrant you're working on, sometimes the square will be on the top like this, and sometimes it will be underneath, and that's fine, just whatever works best for you at the time. You're just going to choose any triangle side, and we're going to sew it partially to the square in the middle. So what I'm going to do here is fold this over, and you see where the right angle is here, the 90-degree angle is where we're going to start sewing. So I'm actually going to put it with the square on the top for my particular example, because that's just how I prefer to work, so I can see where I'm going to stop sewing. I wouldn't be able to do that if the triangle was on the top necessarily, depending on you know, the contrast on the fabric or what have you. It's much easier to see if you can see where your actual fabric is. So we'll start at the beginning, and we're going to back stitch as well. And then we're going to go probably about 2/3 of the way down. Stop and backstitch. And I've just cut the thread, and so you'll see that the seam looks like this, and there's a loose piece there, and that is entirely intentional. So the next thing we're going to do is figure out what side we're going to join next, and it's going to be this one. So it's going to be wherever you've got the open edge is the side that you're next adding to. So for us, it is this guy here, and again, you're going to put them right sides together, and you're going to meet those corners there, that 90-degree angle, and my square is going to go on top. And you can pin this if you like, I just not really a pinner. And this is going to go under my sewing machine, and again we're starting right in that corner with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to sew about 2/3 of the way along that edge, back stitching as well. So back stitch, and then we're going to sew. Stop, back stitch, cut the thread. So now you've got 2 open seams, everything's a bit baggy, but this is where the magic happens. So now we have this piece sewn to the square, this edge is now complete. And so we can finish sewing this piece all the way across. So we can finish this first seam that we started. And I'm actually just going to finger press this. You can press with an iron if you like, but you'll have to just be careful that you don't kind of press this weird here, because it's not sewn all the way across, so you might find that seam allowance either gets really big or really small, so that's why I just kind of finger press it, and I haven't had too much trouble with that so far, so that's just kind of my preferred method. Okay, so that was a little bit wobbly, but you'll get the idea. When I open it up, you see how this is now a completed seam. You've got the converging seams together. We didn't have to do a single Y seam. We have those pieces stitched together, and so now we need to move on to the next edge, which is going to be the one with the open side. So that's this one here. Again, we'll just repeat exactly what we did before. We're going to make the corners meet the 90-degree corners, and that's where we're going to start stitching. Just got to make sure that none of this fabric is underneath the needle as well. You just got to kind of pull it out of the way. So again, we've got an open seam here, and then this one, we're going to finish that one now, because we can open this up, and then we can flip that side down, and then complete this seam. And so it kind of gets a bit folded here, but that's fine, because when you open it up, it'll all make sense. The thread, open it up. So now we have all but one side completed. This seam is finished and this seam is finished. It's just this one that's open. So we'll do our corners again. And then this time it's a little bit different because it's the last piece. This seam's already completed, so we don't need to do a partial seam this time. We just need to sew the entire length. And I'm just going to make sure I always press these seams the same direction as well. So these are all coming outwards from the square. And so that's all of the pieces attached. All that we have left to do is finish this seam, which was the one before the one that we've just done. And it's exactly as before. You bring the pieces together, and then we just finish that seam. You'll notice that I haven't been back stitching when I've been resuming these seams. That's because I'm starting quite a few stitches in, but you could totally back stitch these pieces as well. Cut my thread, and that is the completed quadrant. And now I just need to give this a good press with my iron. Make sure all of those seams are pressed outwards. I think I actually caught some thread earlier, so a little tip for you if that happens, just kind of snip into the fabric a little bit if you need to, just to kind of get that seam to lay flat. Because no one's looking at the back of your pieces, so it's fine. So I'm going to make the last one of these, and then I'm going to sew the quadrants together. And I'm not going to show you how I do that, because I'm pretty sure if you've got as far as making a block like this, you'll know how to do that. But what I'll do is I'll do 2 blocks next to each other, so like 2 rows of 2, and then I'll sew the rows to each other to complete the 4 patch. And that's the finished block. So it didn't take that long to do really. The longest bit is really kind of making sure you have the triangles the right size and cutting them out. As mentioned earlier, the templates are in the description below, and yeah, so I would recommend doing this block. It's not as scary as you might think, and it was a nice introduction to partial seams as well. So that's block 2486 from 5,500 Quilt Block Designs by Maggie Malone. So I think I'll probably do a few more of these videos. If you found that useful, let me know if you have this book and there's one in here that you would like to see me tackle. Also put that in the comments as well, and I will go through those, and maybe that will help me choose the next one to do. Yeah, so thank you for watching this video all the way through if you got this far, and if you liked it and would like to see more content like this, you can hit subscribe, and then hopefully you'll get an update when I release a new video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great time sewing.